Hello and welcome to all you Pisceans. This is another yearly horoscope for the sign of Pisces. And now it's a little bit more in detail. So this video is more about the degree of your Pisces sign. So watch the other video as well. I'm going to put the link at the end of the video. The yearly horoscopes, it's already giving you a vast perspective. But as I said, this is more to do with the outer planets, the faraway planets, and if they do make an aspect to the degree, so to your sun sign in Pisces, or whether you have a moon in Pisces or an ascendant in Pisces. And let's start with Neptune, because Neptune has been in your sign for quite a while. So most of you will already had the Neptune transit, which means Neptune crossed over your sun, a conjunction that is, or over your moon in Pisces, or over your ascendant in Pisces. Now, there is still a very tiny little bit percentage, a tiny small percentage of people of the Pisceans, which is those who've got planets between 25 and 29 degrees of Pisces. You still have to have this Neptunian transit. So I'm talking to these people now. And of course, if you already had a transit, it's maybe good to hear what you learned out of it again. But I'm talking to the ones who have, if you have your sun in Pisces, it's the 16th of March and onwards. So I'm talking to those Pisceans in specific. You're going to have Neptune on your sun. Now, Neptune is a very wishy-washy energy. It's there to gain trust, to gain empathy, it's a very creative energy at its best. It's about soulmate connections at its best, and so on. But a conjunction often means that when we are having it, that we're going to have, first of all, the challenges of that energy, which is like we're not knowing where we're heading. So again, when that is your ascendant, it's your life path. You could be not knowing where you're going. When it's the moon, it's more your relationships or the place of living. When it's your sun, it could be more your work, that you don't know where you're heading. When it comes to your work, you don't know the direction of your life. And you as a Piscean, you already know how to deal with that in a pretty good way, because you're used to the fact that, hey, I trust the universe or God, if you like, or nature, whatever you want to call it. I go with the flow, and it's very much recommended. But of course, for those Pisceans amongst you, that could also feel that you're not really clear about what you want, and therefore you're going to attract circumstances in your life that is also not really clear. You know, is it going to be this relationship or not? Is this the man for you, the woman for you or not? Is this the work for you? And so on. So prepare, for those of you specifically with those latest degrees, prepare yourself for some confusing years, but with the purpose of clarity, with the purpose of giving you a parallel universe, so that you, through the trial and error stage, that you are seeing things that you've never seen before and that are right for you. And with the trust that you have, you are going to do that. So with not chasing too much, it's going to happen rather to you, so to speak. So I would say go with the flow, but at the same time, if you are already a Piscean that is very much like with no grounding, I would say ground yourself for sure. And in new connections that you are going to establish, ask someone that you trust, a friend, a sibling, whatever, but because you're a bit more prone to not really seeing what is right in front of you with this Neptunian energy. So people could perceive you in a way that's totally not the way that you are, and vice versa, just because of this Neptunian kind of energy. But the thing is to explore and to slow down and not chasing too much. On a relationship level, I would not chase with this energy, because the more that you want to, and I don't care if you're a man or a woman, but with this energy, if you try even more, it means you don't trust. And with this transit, It's actually learning the opposite, that if it's for you, it will come. But also watch the red flags around you. Okay, so I mean, if you're dating, for instance, you're having Neptune on your sun sign, let's say, which means, if you're a woman, that could mean a Neptunian man crossing your path, and in the best way. It could be an artist, or it could be someone who's working, for the collective, or maybe, someone in the medical field, and the very person who's very empathic and whatnot. But because it's a conjunction, there could be this confusion around, they are everything, and when you are putting people on a pedestal, you are down there, right? So that's the red flag, that you're not putting people on a pedestal. When you meet new people, you ask someone and you listen to what they're saying about that person. If they're saying, look, dear Piscean, but that man or that woman, they have they drink a whole bottle of whiskey in 10 minutes, or they yes, but he was very nervous. I exaggerate here, but you could say, but yeah, he had a rough time. That is what I mean by red flags. Or they are telling you, yes, I'm divorced. Well, I'm actually not divorced, but I'm going to divorce. Don't fall into those things, right? That is Neptune. It's like, yeah, no, I don't know, blurred lines, right? It's all of that. And but again, I think you Pisceans are, if there's one sign who can handle this the best, it's you. And it can also mean you encountering your empathic self towards the self. So that means that you, out of all signs, are definitely the people that understand everyone, and that you've been there, whatever the emotion is that someone else is going through. But now it's about that compassion towards yourself. It's that love towards yourself, Neptune, on your sign. Anyways, so another thing is, of course, Pluto. Let's talk about Pluto in Aquarius. Now, this is not making an aspect for you, but it's in your 12th house. So what does that mean for the most of the year? Pluto in your 12th house simply means that you could encounter some triggers, or being triggered, if you don't know it even. So Pluto in the 12th wants you to deal with these triggers, and they are unconscious because the 12th house is your house, right? And Pluto there wants to, demolish, or how do you say that? Demolition? And get rid of what is no longer suiting you. And it has to do with old patterns. So it's about tackling habits that are not good for you, that kind of stuff. And of course, Pluto is going to be there for a long time. So it could also mean family patterns. Pluto in the 12th house is a very karmic transit to have, you could say. It's like the gathering of all those old patterns of the ancestors that are sticking to you, and you're going to get rid of them by working on yourself, but almost on like bringing the darkness to the light, because the sun Pluto, when Pluto enters Aquarius again in January, it's going to be together with the sun. So you're going to feel that around the 20th of January and onwards. So it means like something comes to light from your past, and that you reveal to yourself now. And it's going to help you to become less anxious, to become less self-sabotaging. So that's definitely a good energy for sure. Saturn is also in your first house for the whole year. Now let's have a look at that. Whilst those Pisceans that I just talked about at the very end of Pisces are going to feel the Neptune, the people who have planets between 3 and 19 degrees of Pisces are going to feel more the Saturnal energy, because Saturn is in their first house. So that's a totally opposite energy. So that's why, in astrology, I'm doing like here now a little bit more of a precise kind of astrology for a specific degree. So some people are going through the Saturn vibes, and other Pisceans are going through the Neptunian vibes. Now, what does it mean having Saturn in your first house? It's a big one. It's a big one. So for those of you who have planets in Pisces between 3 to 19 degrees, that's a big chunk of the Pisceans, right? They're going through this maturation cycle. And I really like this energy when you're a bit older. When you are young, this can be difficult. You know, when you're 12 years old, having a Saturn transit over your ascendant, it's not the easiest. You know, because why? Because it's about Saturn. It's about being disciplined. It's about being responsible for your own choices. It's about choosing. This is my life path, especially with the ascendant, but also your sun sign and your moon sign. It's about the inner work, and it's about looking within with the Saturn in your sign. It's really about looking within. And it's about your limitations, knowing them and acting upon them like a really mature adult person. And that can be liberating at the same time. I know a lot of astrologers will not use the word liberation with Saturn, but I do, because specifically for Saturn and Pisces, the liberation, Pisces, and it lies in the discipline, in the structure. So you could be, if you're the sort of Piscean that is saying, oh, hey, relationships, I can't say no, I can't put boundaries there too much. Well, Saturn in your first house, that's a good sign that you're going to have boundaries, that you're going to say no. And a lot of people are going to see you more like Saturnal, right? They're going to see you more like a Capricorn, like, yes, no, I have better boundaries now. I have leveled up. I have matured. And yes, you don't like it, but hey, what you see is what you get. Saturn in the first house is very good for, like, when you are wanting to go within and being responsible for yourself and leveling up. For instance, when it's on your sun sign, maybe you want that career, but it still demands this and that and that. Well, with Saturn in your first house, it can mean that you're going to work. You're going to do, oh, for this job, that it means you have to speak Italian. I'm going to learn Italian, and I'm going to do it consistently, and blah, blah, blah. It's all these kind of things. It's very Saturnal. Step by step, you're getting there. For relationships that are no longer working for you, you might say, no, thank you very much now. And what was used to be something difficult could be a bit easier for you with Saturn in your first house. You could also be afraid of entering new connections, but in a way that you want to be practical, you want to be careful, and you want to do it right. So you want to slow down here, which is not necessarily a bad thing. You can attract different kind of people when you're doing that. So that's about responsibilities, right? That's definitely not a negative thing at all. And last but not least, Uranus and Jupiter are going to be in your third house. So the sign of Taurus, especially Jupiter in the first 5 months, it's going to be in Taurus. And that is